In a small village nestled between rolling green hills and a sparkling river, there lived a boy named Rohan.
Unlike the other children in the village who helped their families with chores, worked in the fields, or studied diligently, Rohan was known for one thing: his laziness. He spent his days lying under the shade of a large banyan tree, watching the clouds drift by, or napping in his cozy little hut while his mother and father toiled away to provide for the family.
Rohan's parents were hard-working farmers.
They would wake up before sunrise, plowing the fields, planting crops, and taking care of their livestock. His mother would prepare meals, clean the house, and even weave baskets to sell in the village market. His father would chop firewood, mend fences, and ensure that their farm was thriving. Despite seeing his parents struggle every day, Rohan refused to lend a hand.
Whenever his mother asked him to fetch water from the well, he would yawn and say, "Mother, I am too tired."
If his father requested help in the fields, he would reply, "Father, the sun is too hot today.
Maybe tomorrow." But tomorrow never came.
He always found an excuse: either it was too hot, too cold, or he had just eaten and needed to rest.
Rohan's laziness did not go unnoticed by the villagers.
The other children would tease him, calling him Sleepy Rohan because he was always either dozing off or avoiding work. The elders shook their heads in disappointment, whispering that a boy who refused to work would never succeed in life.
Yet, Rohan remained indifferent.
He believed that as long as his parents provided for him, he did not need to worry about anything. One day, Rohan's mother fell ill. She had been overworking herself for years, and now her body was too weak to continue.
She lay in bed, unable to cook or clean.
Rohan's father, already burdened with farm work, had to take care of her as well.
"Rohan," his father pleaded, "we need your help. At least fetch some water and cook for your mother." Rohan groaned. "But father, I don't know how to cook. And the well is so far away." His father sighed. "Then at least go to the market and buy some food."
Reluctantly, Rohan dragged himself to the village market. He had never done this before, and he found it exhausting to even walk that far. When he reached the market, he realized he had no idea what to buy. The shopkeeper laughed at his confusion. "You've never done this before, have you, Rohan?" he asked.
Rohan shook his head. "Mother always did the shopping."
The shopkeeper handed him a basket of vegetables.
"Take these. And remember, if you do not learn to work, one day you will have nothing." Rohan did not pay much attention to these words.
He simply wanted to return home and rest. However, when he got back, his father asked him to cook the vegetables. He had never cooked before, and he ended up burning the food. His father, though tired and hungry, ate in silence. His mother, too weak to eat much, simply smiled and said, "At least you tried." Days passed, and Rohan found himself doing small tasks he had never done before: fetching water, cooking, and even cleaning. At first, he complained bitterly, but over time, something strange happened. He started feeling a sense of satisfaction. The first time he successfully made a meal without burning it, he felt proud. The first time he fetched water without spilling it all over himself, he smiled. One day, while helping his father in the fields, he saw how difficult the work was. The sun was blazing, his arms ached from pulling weeds, and his legs felt heavy. He looked at his father, who had been doing this every single day without complaint. Rohan realized how unfair he had been. His parents had worked tirelessly while he had spent years being lazy. That evening, he sat by his mother's bedside and held her hand. "Mother," he said softly, "I am sorry. I should have helped you long ago." His mother smiled weakly. "It's never too late to change, my son." From that day on, Rohan's life transformed. He woke up early, helped his father in the fields, and took care of his mother. The villagers, once skeptical, were astonished at the change in him. The same boy who once avoided work at all costs was now one of the most hard-working young men in the village. Years later, when Rohan's parents grew old, he took over the family farm. He married, had children of his own, and made sure they learned the value of hard work from an early age. He often shared his story with them, reminding them that laziness leads to nothing but regret. The lesson of Rohan's story is clear: laziness might seem comfortable at first, but it only leads to struggles in the long run. Hard work, on the other hand, brings respect, fulfillment, and success. And so, the boy who was once the laziest in the village became a man everyone admired, not because he was born hard-working, but because he chose to change. Rohan's laziness wasn't just an inconvenience to his parents, it became a serious problem that affected his life in ways he didn't anticipate. At first, he didn't notice the consequences of his actions. After all, his parents took care of everything. But as time passed, his laziness led to missed opportunities, daily struggles, and growing frustration from those around him. Rohan's father often encouraged him to learn farming, but Rohan always refused, saying, "I'll learn later." The village schoolteacher once invited him to join a writing class, telling him that education would open doors for him in the future.
But Rohan yawned and said, "I don't feel like studying today. Maybe tomorrow."
One day, a wealthy merchant visited the village, looking for young boys to train as apprentices in his business. Many boys, eager to learn, lined up for a chance. But Rohan, as usual, stayed home, lounging under the banyan tree. The merchant's apprentices later became successful traders, traveling to distant cities and earning good money. Meanwhile, Rohan remained stuck in the same routine, with no skills and no prospects. His laziness had cost him a chance at a better future.
As Rohan grew older, his laziness made even simple tasks a struggle.
He avoided work for so long that he never developed the basic skills needed to survive. When his mother fell ill, he was forced to cook, but he didn't even know how to light a fire properly. The first time he tried, he nearly burned his hut down. Fetching water was another challenge. He was so careless that most of it spilled before he reached home. He also had no strength for farm work because he had spent his whole life lying around instead of building stamina like the other boys in the village. His life became increasingly difficult, not because he was incapable, but because he had never put in the effort to learn. Rohan's parents were patient with him, hoping he would change. But as the years passed, their patience wore thin.
His father, exhausted from working alone, would sometimes snap, saying, "Rohan, will you spend your whole life doing nothing?"
His mother, though gentle, often looked at him with worry.
"Son, what will you do when we are no longer here to take care of you?" she asked one day. Rohan had no answer. The villagers, too, grew frustrated.
When a festival was being organized, every young man in the village helped set up decorations, build stalls, and prepare for the event. But when Rohan was asked to assist, he simply shrugged and said, "I'm too tired." The village elder scolded him, "A man who refuses to work is a burden to everyone." The words stung, but Rohan ignored them. However, deep down, he began to feel the weight of his own choices. While others his age were growing, learning, and making something of themselves, he was still stuck in the same place, with nothing to show for it. The turning point came when his father fell ill as well. Now, there was no one to take care of the household, and Rohan had no choice but to step up. He struggled, failing at even the simplest tasks. The people he had once ignored refused to help him, reminding him that he had never helped them. It was then that Rohan truly understood the cost of his laziness. It wasn't just about missed opportunities or daily struggles, it was about being left behind while life moved forward without him.
Would he continue down the same path, or would he finally change?
This was the beginning of his transformation. Rohan's laziness had always been a problem, but he never truly understood its consequences until the day everything changed. One fateful morning, his father collapsed in the fields. The years of hard work and stress had finally taken a toll on his body. The villagers rushed to help, carrying him home while his mother wept. The village healer arrived and examined him, shaking his head. "He needs rest," the healer said. "He cannot work anymore, or his condition will worsen." Rohan stood frozen. His father had always been the backbone of the family. If he couldn't work, who would? His mother, still weak from her own illness, tried to stand. "I will take care of the farm," she whispered. "No, mother," the healer insisted. "You must rest too." For the first time in his life, Rohan realized there was no one left to do the work. He looked at the fields, at the house, at his frail parents, and panic set in. He had always relied on them, but now they were relying on him. That night, as he sat outside, staring at the dark sky, the weight of his choices crashed down on him. He had wasted years doing nothing while his parents worked endlessly. And now, when they needed him the most, he had no skills, no strength, and no idea how to take care of his family. The next morning, Rohan woke up before sunrise, something he had never done before. He stepped into the fields and tried to plow the land. Within minutes, he was exhausted, sweat pouring down his face. His hands, soft from years of idleness, developed blisters. Every muscle in his body screamed in pain, but he forced himself to continue. The villagers watched in astonishment. Some laughed, saying he would give up by noon. Others shook their heads, convinced it was too late for him to change. But Rohan didn't stop. Each day, he worked a little longer. He struggled to cook, often burning the food, but he kept trying. He carried water, cleaned the house, and slowly learned the tasks his parents had done so effortlessly. One evening, after a long day in the fields, he returned home and saw his father sitting up, watching him. There was no disappointment in his eyes this time, only pride. "You've grown, my son," his father said weakly. At that moment, Rohan realized something. Hard work wasn't just about survival, it was about responsibility, about love, and about becoming someone his parents and his village could respect. This event changed him forever. The boy who once avoided every chore was now the one others looked up to. His laziness had once made him weak, but his determination to change made him stronger than ever before. Rohan's journey from laziness to responsibility was not easy, but it was life-changing. The first few days of working in the fields were unbearable. His body ached, his hands were covered in blisters, and exhaustion weighed him down. Many times, he wanted to quit, but then he would look at his frail parents, resting inside their small home, and remind himself why he had started. He slowly learned to push through the pain. Each morning, he woke up before sunrise, just as his father had done for years. The plow that once felt impossibly heavy became easier to lift. The once endless fields no longer felt intimidating. He began to understand the rhythm of farming, when to water the crops, when to harvest, and how to care for the soil. Cooking, which had once seemed impossible, also became a skill he developed through trial and error. His early meals were barely edible, but he kept practicing. Eventually, he could prepare food for his parents without burning it or making it taste terrible. He also took on household chores, cleaning the home, repairing broken furniture, and ensuring his parents were comfortable. The villagers, who had once mocked him, began to notice the change. They saw him carrying heavy sacks of grain to the market, tending to the animals, and working tirelessly in the fields. They no longer called him lazy. Instead, they started greeting him with respect. Some even offered to help him learn new farming techniques, seeing his determination to improve. With every passing day, Rohan grew stronger, not just physically, but mentally. He no longer sought the comfort of laziness because he had discovered the satisfaction of hard work. He began to take pride in his efforts, realizing that true happiness came from contributing, from providing, and from being dependable. One day, as he sat by his father's bedside, his father reached out and placed a calloused hand on his shoulder. "You have become a man, Rohan," he said with pride. "I worried for years that you would never understand the value of hard work, but now I see that you do." Rohan smiled, feeling something he had never felt before: self-respect. He was no longer a burden to his family. He was no longer the boy who wasted his days under the banyan tree. He had transformed into someone who could be relied upon, someone who understood the dignity of labor. Years later, when his parents had grown old, Rohan took over the farm completely. He built a life for himself, ensuring his family never struggled again. He often told his story to young boys in the village, reminding them that laziness leads to nothing but regret, while hard work leads to a life of fulfillment and respect. The transformation was complete. The boy who once avoided every chore had become a man known for his dedication, resilience, and unwavering sense of responsibility. The story of Rohan teaches a powerful lesson: laziness may seem easy and comfortable in the moment, but it ultimately leads to failure, missed opportunities, and regret. By avoiding responsibility, Rohan not only made his own life difficult but also became a burden to those who cared for him. It was only when he was forced to confront his own shortcomings that he realized the true cost of his laziness. However, his story also shows that change is always possible. Hard work, perseverance, and a willingness to learn can transform even the laziest person into someone strong, capable, and respected.
Rohan's journey from idleness to responsibility proves that success does not come from avoiding effort but from embracing it.
The moral of the story is clear. Laziness leads to struggles and lost potential, while effort and perseverance bring self-respect, progress, and a fulfilling life.
True success is not given, it is earned through dedication and hard work.